So my name is Robin Stafford, and I have been with the engagement department since December of 2019. I work with the New England clubs, except for Boston, and the Midwest, couple in Florida, UVA Club of Charlottesville. Anyway, so I started about 32 days, give or take a day, before COVID sent us all home. And I had just, started the job and I thought, oh my gosh, we're completely obsolete because this job is all about meeting people in person and events and what will we do? And I just started and I want to try to stay relevant. And so anyway, we came up with some alumni virtual programming and you all were responsible for many of those events. Before we'd really just relied on faculty speakers, coaches, et cetera, for programming. And so reaching into this whole alumni world really opened up to such a huge variety of interests, talents, skills. We had so much fun. Anyway, to kick this off today, I'm joined with a couple of panelists, a few panelists, Justin Paxton from the ELA Club in Los Angeles. Hi, Justin. Hi. And Lori Overholt from Tidewater and Boo from Washington, DC. How I'd like to start today, we actually sort of looked for a greatest hits from last year. And this is by no means comprehensive, but I hope you'll have fun seeing this compilation. Ashley and our film editor put together just a great little video of some of the highlights of last year's programming. So we'll just start by watching that and see you back here in just a minute.
Welcome, please come in.
Great, thanks, Ashley. Hope you all recognize some of those programs. So as I mentioned, when I started and I wasn't sure what we were going to do about programming, I thought, who do I know in Charlottesville? I have lived here for a long time, worked 100 different places, had lots of UVA interaction. And so I had a friend whose house was going to be on the garden tour. I talked to her first. Hey, would you be willing to just walk us through your garden? That was a huge hit. And then I knew somebody else who was an auctioneer. Could you show us your antiques collection? Oh, and you're a cook. And it just went on. And then everybody just kept coming up with all these different ideas in our club. So much fun. But I'd like to start today with our panelists. Lori in Tidewater was responsible for a lot of fun programming there, including the cupcake event with Melvina Queen, who's also here today. Hi, Melvina. Anyway, so Lori, if you could just talk a little bit about how your club, targeted alums, approached them, asked them, and how that happened in your year of, virtual alumni programming.
Okay, well, first we, in a board meeting, just kind of brainstormed about what kind of topics we wanted to present, and COVID was the big thing, like what is happening with COVID and kids. So actually one of my best friends from high school who also went to UVA is a pediatrician. So we asked her to do a presentation on COVID and children, which she totally was on board for doing. She did a great job, Dr. Jennifer Shue. I think another club actually asked her to do something with them after that. We talked about food supply being affected because of COVID. We had the supply chain. We had somebody who worked at the ports. And so basically it was just networking, going through our network, and who do we know that went to UVA that could talk about any of these things. And then from the other side of it, basically saying, okay, so what do we want? One of those ones that was featured in the video was the Vibe Creative District, Art District here in Virginia Beach. And so we were like, we wanted to do a tour of it, but we decided we were going to do virtual still, not do in person. So then we were like, well, does anybody who went to UVA, is anybody involved in the Vibe District? So then we looked it up and found somebody, one of the architects actually went to UVA, so reached out to him. So nobody really had a personal connection with him, but he was happy to do it and actually had attended one of our events at one point. So I guess my thing is, just look for your personal network, and then also just go on LinkedIn and see who went to UVA at different companies or things that you are interested in featuring. But there's only one person who ever said no to us, and they only said no because they couldn't make the time work. They would do it at a different time. So I think all the alumni that we've ever approached obviously is willing to do it. And personally for me, I think like all of my friends who went to UVA are interesting and have something to say. And if you ask anyone, there's something that they could talk about, and that they're an expert in something, and they're all very interesting people. UVA doesn't turn out people who are boring duds, right? So that is basically how we went about it.
That's great. And so Justin, for Entertainment Los Angeles, you're one of 2 clubs in Los Angeles, and you have arranged some terrific alumni speakers. And do you tend to know some of them? Do you have friends of friends? Are you checking LinkedIn? How do you go about finding your speakers?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'd say the biggest way that we go about finding our speakers is probably making sure that we read the UVA Today email every single day. And if there's a story that's at all related to entertainment in any way, shape, or form, our REO, Maggie, is going to get an email from us that says, hi, here's this person. They seem entertainment related. Can you get us their contact information? Can we get them? Can we speak with them? So we're really big on relying on your office, Robin, and our incredible REO to help connect us with anyone that we see of interest. So that's like our main way. Other than that, about once a year, twice a year, I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll look for people. Usually we were looking for people, it used to be we'd look for people based in the Los Angeles area that did entertainment. And I would create a list and I'd start reaching out to them. And then I usually invite them out to coffee first, just to meet me as the president. And then with the idea of, I'm hoping to explain to you what the speaker series is, and invite you to be one of our speakers. Now that we have virtual recordings, I actually will send someone some of the recordings in the invite to say, hey, here, you can take a look and see, how some of our events have gone. We make sure to include a event that was super well attended and to include an event that was maybe super small attended, because we have yet to have a unsuccessful event. It just depends on the scope of what you're actually able to cover. So we avoid calling it like a panel or a roundtable and just calling it a speaker series, because it can be either one of them. Sometimes our speaker series ends up being a panel and it's a huge attended event. Sometimes it is a roundtable and it's just 4 people with someone and they're getting really great individualized advice. So we try and also make sure that our invitation asks everyone what they're interested in. Do you want us to keep it small? Do you want it to be big? Do you want it to be a presentation? Do you want it to be a conversation? And just basically letting them guide us as to how they'd be interested in sharing whatever it is they want to share with us. So LinkedIn, REO, and then obviously word of mouth. Whenever, if someone knows of a friend, I ask board members probably 3 or 4 times a year to just give me 3 people who aren't already on our list that are their friends from UVA, and will eventually, they rise to a place where they're going to be a speaker at some point.
And would you mind telling us just which some of your most successful, or the name? I know we shared Emily Swallow's.
Yeah, Emily Swallow was in The Mandalorian for Disney Plus, and she is actually an incredible example because she's someone that I had absolutely zero connection with. The club didn't know her at all. We saw this incredible, my great social media guru, Myron, saw an article that the UVA Today did with her and reached out and was like, she'd be a great speaker. Again, I forwarded that to Maggie. Maggie helped get us her contact information, and we just reached out, made that introduction. And, that was incredible because Emily's not based in Los Angeles. She filmed some of The Mandalorian here in Los Angeles, but she and her husband does Broadway. They were based in New York City, but she actually did the speaker series from like her in-laws' place in Florida. So again, it opened up this opportunity of making sure that we can capture people that we want that are in different areas. So that's been what's really great about this virtual world in our sense, and particularly with California being the time difference, like it works really well to be able to do that sort of thing. So Emily was a really great example. We've also, some of our most successful events, I'd say, are being in California, we rarely get the ability to get professors out here to give talks. And so, I asked all of my board, to tell me 2 of their favorite professors from their time there. And I basically go to Maggie every so often and I say, hey, can we reach out to this person and see if they'll be a speaker? And I just say at the very front, so-and-so is on my board. They mentioned, being and loving your class. We would love to invite you to be a speaker. And that has been maybe the most successful thing that we've been able to do. We had a professor from media studies come out and talk about race and film and television. We've had discussions about the pandemic in media. So, thinking about movies and things like that cover pandemics and things like that. So it's just been a really great opportunity to get individuals that we wouldn't usually get as speakers as well.
It's terrific. And I wanted to mention too, Ashley just put the link in for LinkedIn for people. If you have, a topic and you think this would be such a great topic, is there anybody? We can also search our alumni database. Sometimes they will just, in a conversation they've had with someone at the university, they might mention that they're interested in. I'm going to throw something to Ron Jaffa really quickly. Ron is an impromptu guest speaker. Hi, Ron.
Hey, Robin, how are you?
Good. Ron reached out to me, maybe it's been a year now. And just to describe this, well, you can describe what it was, and then we'll talk about the little connection we found. But go ahead, Ron.
Okay, and thanks, Robin. And if anyone has a chance to interact with Robin, she's just great. She's always thinking of stuff and very helpful to our club up here in Connecticut and New York in getting events scheduled. So our great thanks to her and everyone in engagement, but we deal with Robin pretty much. So, but I guess what Robin was talking about, we have in Westchester County here, a pretty amazing resource. It's called the Malcolm Prey Achievement Center. And I have been trying for the last year and a half to set up a live event there. Malcolm Prey was a very well-known automobile dealer and collector in the area. He's passed away a few years ago, but through the years, he amassed a great collection of classic cars. And he also is a UVA alum, which I actually didn't find out until after I'd already reached out to the executive director there. yeah, so we're again trying to get back in there live. We tried to do something virtually, but it never seemed to work out. So I'm hopeful at some point this fall we can get back in there. And the Achievement Center, it's more than just a kind of car museum. They reach out to a lot of the area schools and work with kids to show them what hard work and following your dream can do, which was Mr. Prey's kind of passion in life to give back to the community and pass things along. So yeah, we're hoping that works out. And if it ends up being virtual, I'd love to open it up to everybody else. But it's hard to appreciate dozens and dozens of classic cars dating back over 100 years ago up through current times without really seeing them in person. But
yeah, so when we were kind of tossing around the virtual idea, I went into the alumni database that we use in our office and just put in the word, classic car or car collector, and sure enough, that had come up in a conversation and that was logged. And so we reached out to a couple of people. Would you be interested in sort of, emceeing this tour of the car of a UVA alum collection, et cetera? Anyway, so it's interesting how we can piece these things together. I'd like to welcome Boo from Washington, DC. And Boo is here. She mentioned she's having video trouble, but I hope
sorry about that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. One of the things, we did have many very successful food programs this past year, alums with different restaurants and cooking events, et cetera. And one of the great ones was Daniel Lee, who was featured in that compilation video, making dumplings. But Boo, could you talk about some of your alumni programming and how they came about, how the programs came about?
Yeah. So I am on the networking committee for DC Who's. So we have been utilizing alumni in a slightly different way. We have not had actors like in LA, but we have started during the pandemic trying to find ways to still be able to meet people, still make connections, especially for those recent grads who are on the job hunt or who were kind of struggling to make those connections, not being able to meet folks in person. So we started some programming where we did kind of specific networking hours is what we called the events. And so like personally, I work on Capitol Hill. So we would host like a Capitol Hill event where anyone who's involved either in politics, on or off the Hill, just in the community, they could all get on at the same time and offer their advice and kind of make connections with the younger folks. And a few people have actually been able to find jobs through that, which has been awesome. But we've kind of tried to expand it to different topics. Business, consulting is big in DC, things like that. So utilizing alums that we have within our committee, but definitely want to expand it this year and hopefully find other connections, folks kind of in realms that none of us exist in, that we might be able to help others continue to expand. And even as we go back to in-person events, I think we're going to continue doing these virtual events to make it easier for people to access, because not everyone can get off of work at 5 p.m. to attend things like that. So it's been super successful so far, and we've had fun doing it as well.
So do you have, is that a wide age range of attendees?
Yeah, we've had UVA students who haven't quite graduated yet, who have just wanted to get to know folks and hear more about alums' experiences. And then we've had folks who are retired, who are just interested in calling in, and they either used to work in the industry or they're interested in getting back involved. So it's been very open and inclusive for anyone who's really interested in either learning something new or truly on the job hunt and trying to use every resource available.
That's great. So does anybody here in the room have questions about alumni programming or have any examples of good programs? you help to coordinate for your clubs you'd like to share? I was thinking of one that we did that was funny. We started this kind of cooking series in Charlottesville, and most of the people in the program were UVA alums or somehow connected to UVA. And but the person who was coordinating the Charlottesville club said, "Oh, I've heard about this woman, this taco queen, and she's just fabulous, and she's got these great taco recipes." And so we didn't really know what to expect. But when the taco queen logged on that night, and this was kind of early on in COVID programming, she had this large taco hat on, large taco hat. She'd clearly had 2 or 3 margaritas in preparation. And we had in the, Eventbrite, we'd sent out a great picture of just kind of California style street tacos in the invite. And when the taco queen came on, she had the old El Paso box and, had roped somebody into coming into the kitchen because she couldn't quite get the seasoning packet open. But needless to say, we did not lose one participant for that program. It was mesmerizing because we didn't know what was going to happen next. Anyway, so that's, I remember a few days after that, Mark Llewellyn, who's kind of head of engagement, advancement, et cetera, kind of sent this email, and I wasn't sure whether he'd seen the taco program or just heard about it, but he said, I really want to just stress quality virtual programming over quantity. Anyway, that was a funny one, but does anybody have any alumni programs you'd like to share with the group?
I'd be happy to highlight one that Julie, who I see is on from the Club of Orange County, and Joanna, who I see is on from the Club of Los Angeles, helped me plan. And it was in coordination with Amelia, who was with the Club of New York. But we did we planned a morning of mindfulness where Julie led, as you saw, a short yoga session. Then we brought in Matt, who had led the meditation for another club leader call. So we brought him in to lead a meditation. And then we brought in a different alum from the Tennessee, Nashville area to lead a sound bath, just to kind of give an introduction to everyone about mindfulness, meditation, yoga, all of that. We got together on a Saturday. I want to say there were like 60 people in total. But not only was it a really fun event where we got to introduce people to a bunch of different things, but it was a cross-collaborative event on both coasts, right? So we had people in New York that were joining us. We invited the Club of Nashville to join us, and we invited pretty much the entire state of California to join us. So it was just a really great experience and a really cool chance to interact with UVA alums that we wouldn't usually get to interact with.
That's great. Julie, how was that?
Sorry, Robin. We
Oh,
had
no,
we also had one where we reached out to a local lawyer who was the president of the Bar Association in Virginia, and she just ran with it. She got us a whole panel of lawyers. She did all the work, and she even got us some people who are planning to run for governor in the future in Virginia. And from that, a lawyer reached out to us who specializes in domestic abuse situations and said that she would be interested in doing a panel at some point. So we then had another panel later during Child Abuse Prevention Month and had several people, including her, and CASA, the child advocate, appointed services, came and spoke. And from that, Melvina actually became a CASA advocate and has someone that she sponsors now. So, I mean, that was great. How that all worked out was awesome.
Melvina, did you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I'll just chime in because it's funny because I'm a court appointed special advocate for a child here in the city of Chesapeake, but everyone's like, how did you get involved in that? And I always have to kind of go down just kind of what Lori said, like UVA programming. And then we were, tossing around ideas, and then I heard, and then I was like, oh, I can do something like this. And then I can train for it. And then instantly got sworn in for my city. And then now have a 15-year-old that I sponsor. So it's been a very interesting way that UVA clubs has opened up other doors for me as well. But And thank you, Lori. You've been fantastic.
Boo, did you have any other programs that you wanted to mention? I know you have focused on the networking, but just DC programs or hearsay?
Yeah, our club has had a wide array of events. One that I personally really enjoyed last year. I don't know if y'all remember Micah Iverson. He was one of the Virginia gentlemen at UVA, and he was actually a contestant on The Voice last year. So we got to do a program with him, and he even sang us a couple songs, which was great. I got my parents to join the call as well. So fun things like that, that I hope will continue into, I don't know, this new year for DC Who's.
Yeah, I hope the, this year definitely we're in this. I mean, we've been talking about kind of the hybrid plans for the fall and encouraging outside while the weather's still nice, but when November, December, January come and we're all in again, we are starting to think a bit more about our virtual programming again. And I feel like we all set a pretty high bar last year. And even though people are throwing around the Zoom fatigue for these sorts of programs, I think there will still be interest this fall, winter. So just remember, our office is a huge resource. If you have any idea about something you think would be interesting, even if the alum isn't necessarily from your area, we can help you connect with them to put on programs. But were there any questions from anybody here? Any other comments or? Okay, well, I hope you all are joining us later for the Cindy Frederick social hour. Ashley, anything to talk about that? Ashley uses the verb gamify a lot.
I mean, I'm not saying there's not going to be trivia.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. There are games, there are prizes. Come hang out. Cindy is just back from a trip with UVA alumni travel. So she's super excited that she can make it and say hello and thank all of you individually. So, or at least in person. I don't know if she'll be able to do it individually, but yeah, make sure you come by at 7 o'clock Eastern, so 4 o'clock for the West Coast. And we hope to see you.
Yeah, thank you all for joining, and thanks for attending the sessions, this conference. Take care.
Well, Robin, one final thing to say is if you are ever struggling for ideas of people, you can always check the UVA Global Engagement YouTube page, and you'll see all of the recorded sessions. And I'm sure if you reach out to those people, they'd more than likely be willing to do it again.
Yes, I'm sure that's true. I know, and a lot of the people who were kind of, nervous about doing it and apprehensive, so many great things came of it. One of the clips in that compilation, Pat Powell, who showed his antique collection, he had 3 classmates he hadn't seen since, 1969, reach out to him. A cousin. I mean, it just expanded his world, really, doing that program. Same thing with the gardening. I just was talking to a friend. This is a program I'm planning for the fall, winter, a painter in Charlottesville who just through a series of conversations, he, was a West Coast guy, ended up working in the art department at UVA. So he's retired faculty. He's documented Charlottesville for 30 years through painting. When he hears, oh, they're going to put a Wegmans in where that forest was, let me drive over with my easel and document for the next 2 weeks. So it's so interesting. Anyway, so he's thrilled. He's a very kind of shy, retiring person. But when I explained it to him, he said, oh, it's just going to be you and me talking about it. And yeah, so anyway, it's really fun for the alums too. Great. Well, take care, you all, and hope to see you later, 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.